Hi guys, today we're going to be putting together a soldering station to add to my lab here. Um, this particular one here, looking at the bits and pieces, you'll find online. I printed this out, copied it from the website. Amazon.com, AliExpress, Banggood, they all seem to have these in various guises and from different manufacturers, and they will have different names on them, but they all kind of look like this. And the key to these is I like these because they are simple. This one here has just a simple little controller, and it has a temperature display, and it is simple. There are some others that are way more expensive. This whole kit here is like usually less than $25. I think I paid $23 for it, but prices are very going up nowadays, so every time I look at something it's more expensive. But in any case, I believe that they're still under $25. It is simple. You just have a rotary encoder here, control, that allows you to set the temperature that you want. You can push it, it clicks, and then there are some setup programming modes which I don't touch because it seems to come from the factory pretty much set up the way I would want it. Everything works. It has a little calibration control here for fine-tuning the temperature if you want to. So it serves my purpose, and the reason I'm using this is because what I determined is these T12 tips, that are everywhere and they're cheap. I think Hakko is the company that has first introduced them, and they themselves have a soldering station, an ugly blue and yellow thing, which is, you know, like over $100, I think, the last time I saw one. And I find that these Chinese ones are very good. I don't have a problem with them at all. I have already built one. This is one here. This one is different, a little bit, maybe a better quality case, because this is aluminium alloy. This one is plastic, but they are functionally the same. Now I wanted I'll make a second one and do a video on it, how it's put together. So these tips over here, the reason I like those is, like I have another a big soldering station which I've had for a while, an expensive one, which typically looks like this. And you know, to change tips you got to unscrew something, and then it has a sort of a metal tip, and then it has like a heating element in there which you can pull out. It works well, but sometimes when you're soldering on the SMD components on PC boards and everything, you want to be able to change tips, and it makes it inconvenient because you know, it is hot, and you can't just simply, you know, plug these things in. Now these T12 tips, I have two. These are actually the ones that I use, not the one that comes with the kit, which we'll get to in a minute. You can just kind of, you know, plug them in like that, and you just take them out, swap them over, whatever, easy. And this is the kind of thing that came with the kit, but these also have a similar problem. Here's one that came with the other one that's already built up. If you want to change tips, you've got to unscrew this. Then you can take the tip out. It's still easier than the other one I showed you, the standard ones. And there's another thing about these things that some people have mentioned, is that if you look at these, here, let me plug in you will see the difference where you're holding it. you see this one is much shorter, which is a benefit. Like if you're soldering with this one, you are quite a long ways from the actual tip, and it makes it less controllable. Whereas this one here, you know, you can hold it nice and close. Maybe sometimes when you have to go into deep or something, maybe that'll work. But in any case, these are that's one of the reasons I like these things. This here also was a little kit. I think it was $7.50 or something. Came similar with wire and one of these things, and it works well with these kits, and it came with the right kind of plug. Now this one here, there is another story which you've got to be aware of too. There are a number of these units online, and at first sight you might think that they are the same, but they are not. There is one that I've seen, I think it's a hand kit or something. The actual socket on the front has only got 4 pins and not 5. These guys here have 5-pin sockets on them. The Chinese call these things aviation plugs that plug into them. There's five pins there. So that one I showed you before came with 5, and I was able to connect it together. I've actually worked out how these things are wired, and here this is the actual wiring diagram of the actual soldering pencil, wand, whatever you call it. As you can see there, it is actually fairly simple. This is the you know, like a drawing I made up of the tip there. You can see that there is two, let's see if I'll put that down here. There's two metal bands there. This is positive, that's the negative connection, and this body here gets connected to ground. And that's the wiring of them. Pin 2 goes to the red wires, positive. Pin 5 goes to the black wires, negative. Ground goes to the green wire, to the body there, and then there's that little switch here. These things are actually, they call them a vibration switch, but if you look at the data sheet, it has two little metal balls in there which can move around, and they signal to the soldering station. Goes to pin 4 and pin 3, and this leg here is actually slightly, if you look very carefully, slightly gold. I'm not sure if you can see it very well on the video, but it has a gold leg and a silver leg. So the gold leg goes to pin 4 and the silver one goes to pin 3. What it actually does is it signals to the soldering station that the soldering iron is in use. So when the soldering iron is sitting still in the stand, you know, like these things don't come with stands. You got to find your own. But I've got one here. If it's just sitting in a stand like that for a period of time, I don't know, it's 5 minutes or whatever it is, 10 minutes. It actually goes to a standby mode, and it will reduce the temperature to 200 degrees, which is good. I like that because it stops the tips from, you know, unnecessarily oxidizing and so on. And then after another 5 or 10 minutes, this is all programmable. It will then go into, it'll switch it off completely, and it'll go to 0 degrees or whatever, you know, room temperature. But when you pick up the soldering iron, it will actually automatically turn back on, and of course it heats very quickly. It takes seconds. So I find that a very desirable feature of these things, and that this is involved in achieving that. But getting back to this one here, this is actually a an alloy soldering iron, and I thought, I'll get that because it's, seems to be a better quality one. And when I got it, I verified, when I bought it, that it has a 5-pin plug on it, and I thought, somehow foolishly thought, maybe there is some sort of standard, so I plugged it into actually this soldering station here, and guess what, it thought about it for a while, then it went to error code 500, and I thought, oh well, let me plug in my normal soldering iron again, and it stayed on 500, and it never was able to recover, so obviously it was damaged. So then the actual controller here, this MOSFET was blown, so I replaced that. Still no good. There's an op amp over here, but I don't have that particular type. I replaced it with another one which I thought was similar. Still no good, so I was not able to retrieve it. I don't know if this microcontroller somehow got damaged, and when I looked inside of the I opened this thing up, there was a little component in there which normally these guys don't use, which I think it had like a glass body on it, but it had black stuff inside, and I think it was some sort of thermistor. I think these KSGER units, you'll find these for sale as well. They tend to have an OLED display. They are more sophisticated, I guess, than these simple controllers. They don't come as kits, they come as complete units, and I think they're like $50 or something. And I think they measure the temperature of the actual wand and decide, if there's a problem, and switch off or something like that if it gets too hot. I'm not sure, but the actual power wires, the red and the black wire, these cables, they have these colored wires in there. It has the same cable, same colors, but they were connected opposite. Red was where black is supposed to be, and black was where red is supposed to be, and the little switch over here was connected from the black one to some other. It was completely different, wired up differently, and obviously caused damage to the little controller, and that's why I bought a spare one. So I've got just in case something ever happens to these things again, and I can just put another one in there. So be careful when you buy things to make sure, like if you bought one of these things, you have to open it up and rewire it, and to stop it from damaging the it has to be compatible. Anyway, that's the story on that. So these little controllers here, they can vary. The ones that we're dealing with over here are all marked Mini STC T12, and my finger is on it, Mini STC T12, but as you can see, there are subtle differences between these two. This one says version 2.1, this one says version F over there. Graphics are a little bit different, and if you notice, the socket on this one is on the front and it points upwards, and the socket on this one is at the back and points backwards. So this one is suitable for this station over here, because it is the height of it is less. It wouldn't fit this one without taking this socket off. It wouldn't fit this one, because by the time the plug is in there, it would be too high for the case. you'd have to remove that socket and put a different socket and solder it on the back. You can do that easily enough, so it's not a problem. They're actually interchangeable in that way. But the components too, it uses the same microcontroller and the same similar chips, but you can see the layout is different. These little voltage regulator is in a different position. There's different components here than there are on there, and but functionally they are the same, so no problems. So this is what we're dealing with. We're looking at Mini STC T12 controllers. This is the one that belongs to this one. That's the one we will be using. It comes with a switch mode power supply, which I had a look at. It's got good protection, it's good quality, good separation between the high voltage and low voltage section. So this is all good. Came with some little piece of solder which feels very stiff, so I think it's probably lead-free solder, so I'm not going to be using that. Comes with a little bit of rosin flux, which is actually hard. This is the sort of stuff you would expect to use on a violin bow, but not sure. Probably I've got other fluxes, so I won't be using that. This goes inside of the soldering iron, and you know it connects to the T12 tip here. This one, little connections, and this little switch over here, it is important that it points in the right direction. That's why it has a gold and a silver leg on it. It actually mounts on the little PC board over here, like that. You have to be careful with these. I've noticed this is a plastic body, and if you heat the legs too close to the body, they just drop out. It just melts, and the little leg falls out. So on here, this is not as much of a problem because you're soldering it onto the little PC board, and you know there is a little bit of thermal resistance for the PC board there, so you can quickly solder it. Go but when you are connecting it up with one of these soldering irons, let's have a look. Does this one open up? You actually have to, I'm just doing this off screen here. Yeah, there we go here. You actually have to solder it directly to the wires. There's no PCB board. There's only three connections here on these things, and I put some hot glue on that to keep it all together so it doesn't move, but I put some heat shrink tubing on it. But you got to make sure that this thing is oriented in the right way. If not, it won't be working. And I've seen at least one reference to somebody else that put one of these kits together, and he says, oh, that little switch doesn't work. I have to hold up the soldering iron. I have to hold the soldering iron like this for it to turn on, and when I take it out, it doesn't work. Well, he simply put this thing in back to front. That's what he's done, probably, unless it's faulty, I don't know. But for some reason these kits all seem to include two of them, because I guess you can mess them up, so at least you've got another one to use. Oh, another interesting thing is that this tip over here was the one I told you before, that that KSGER one. There was a problem with that when I plugged it in, and of course I had it in my hand, wasn't looking at it, and it said 500s on the display, but meanwhile this whole thing was cherry red. It was glowing red, and this is apparently what happens if you put the voltage back to front, and indeed the voltage, as I said, the black was connected to red and red was connected to black, so that's what it was doing. And there's a warning on the actual website for where you purchase this thing, that if it's back to front, then this is what's going to happen, so to be careful to wire it up right. But I was quite impressed with these tips here, because you can see that it is discolored because of that, but yet it still works perfectly. So they're pretty hardy. I'm going to have to clean up this little tip here and re-tin it a little bit, because it did, because of the extreme heat, it did get a little bit sort of dull there, whereas the new ones are shiny. Okay, so that's that. Now this particular one, the other one that I showed you, this particular one here has two sockets. It has a socket on the board. This one over here, let me zoom out again. Zoop. This one over here didn't have that, so you would use, they include these little cables. This got soldered directly to the power supply, and then it would plug into the socket on the little board. But this one here has got two sockets. It's got the socket on the power supply and a socket on the board here, and they included another little cable here, which obviously is the one to use on this one, because you have two sockets. And another difference is that this particular power supply from the other one, had a different switch and power input unit. Note that it doesn't come with the cord for this, and it doesn't come with a soldering iron stand, so you've got to source these differently. I happen to have a bunch of these things laying around, so it doesn't bother me. But this one over here, the instructions tell you to just solder the wires directly into the board here, and this board has active and neutral and ground inputs. The AC in line, which is the active one, this is neutral, and there is another socket here for earth, which is the ground. I'm going to be putting little spade lugs on there. I'm not going to solder it directly to this thing. But the other one, this one here, had a neat arrangement where the this unit here had like special little legs on it, and the power supply had like a socket on it, and it would just, you just plug it together like that. You just plug it together like that, and so that was kind of nice. As I said, the other one's probably slightly better quality, but functionally the same anyway. Okay, so I think that's about all that we talk about, so we should go ahead and start putting it together.